Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is SportsIQ with Larry Smith.
Hey, we have made it to the end of the week. Glad you're here with us. SportsIQ, Larry Smith. Man, we've got a jam-packed show to finish out the week. Obviously, big college football weekend. Tonight it is Alabama, Oklahoma. We've got Colton Sulley talking about the Sooners. Welcome him back on the show again. Always a great guest. And also we have the FCS Semifinals and a couple of great stories there. Montana is one. Coulter Nuanez joining us to talk about that. And then Randy Reinhardt talking the Illinois State Redbirds. You know, they had the big upset earlier in the playoffs on the road over North Dakota State and Redbirds. Normal, Illinois. I'm trying to think what big athletes come out of there lately. I mean, here's how old I am. Doug Collins, who's retired not only from playing, but from coaching, was a star for Illinois State back in the early 70s. He was on the 72 Olympic team. And then there was a women's basketball player named Kathy Boswell who went there. She was on the 84 Olympic team in LA for Team USA out of Joliet West High School. I know I'm going way too deep for you, so I'll pull it back. But anyway, Illinois State, not a lot of athletic moments there on the national stage, but they're in there. We'll talk to Randy about that. We're going to put producer Tony to work. It's a Friday. I'm going to save the voice. I've been doing the games I'm back home now, out of Atlanta, back in the Bluegrass. And if my voice sounds funny, because I've talked a lot this week, so I'm gonna let producer Tony do some of the interviews, and he's excited to do that. So anyway, I guess I shouldn't say let him. I mean, he's going to jump in and do those. But anyway, let's get to some headlines. A lot of stuff happening. Thursday night NFC West showdown. Rams Seahawks lived up to the billing. May have been the best game of the NFL season to date, and the stats tell the story. The Rams, 581 yards of total offense. The Seahawks, 415 yards, almost 1,000 yards of offense. Rams, no turnovers. Seattle, 3 turnovers, including 2 picks of Sam Darnold. Game to the Rams, right? No. The Seahawks, sparked by a 58-yard punt return for a score by Rashid Shaheed, led to a 16-point fourth quarter comeback for the Seahawks as they beat the Rams in overtime, 38-37. But not without controversy. A 2-point try by the Seahawks was ruled on the field to be an incomplete pass, the ball ending up in the end zone where Zach Charbonnet picked it up. Well, on review, the pass was ruled to be a backward pass and hence a live ball. So Charbonnet picked up what turned out to be worth 2 points, and that's what forced the game into overtime. Rams got the ball in OT first. Matthew Stafford connecting with Puka Nacua, who cruised untouched into the end zone for a 41-yard touchdown to make it 37-30. Nacua finishing with 12 catches for 225 yards and 2 touchdowns. Stafford, 457 passing, third most of his career. Seattle got the ball. Darnold finding Jackson Smith and Jigba for the touchdown. Seattle could have kicked the extra point and tied it back up, but instead, Coach Mike McDonald went for the win. And that was it. 2-point conversion, the comeback complete. The Seahawks now 12-3. They can clinch home field in the NFC playoffs with wins in their final 2 games. Wow. In the NBA, LaMelo Ball hitting 7 first-half three-pointers in his return from a right ankle injury, I should say. Charlotte 18 in the opening 24 minutes to match the NBA and franchise records for three-pointers. Hornets beating Atlanta 133-128. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander 32 points before resting in the fourth quarter. The Thunder bouncing back from a rare loss to beat the Clippers 122-101. Nikola Jokic 23 points, 13 assists, 11 rebounds to become the career assist leader among centers. And the streaking Denver Nuggets beating Orlando 126-115. Jokic just 6 assists behind Kareem Abdul-Jabbar entering the game. And now he owns the record all to himself. And he's still fairly young. He may put this record where it may never be touched. Luka Doncic continues to be red hot. 45 points, 14 assists, 11 rebounds. That's his 5th triple-double of this season. The Lakers, a big fourth quarter to top the Jazz, 143-135. LeBron with 28 and 10 assists for the Lakers. They outscored the Jazz 41-29 in the fourth quarter. Story from the NCAA volleyball. Won a matchup in the Final Four in Kansas City. It'll be Texas A&M and Kentucky, 2 SEC teams for the championship on Sunday. The Aggies sweeping top seed Pitt in 3 sets before a thriller with the Wildcats beating Wisconsin 3-2. Came down to, it was actually 14-13 in the final on match point. and Kentucky got it done. And so they move on right now, beating the only two teams that beat them during the season. They will face A&M for their second volleyball title as they won it back in 2020, a game that matchup was actually played in 2021. All right, so we can't wait for that. Producer Tony has our first guest.
Well, thanks so much, Larry. And tonight kicks off the college football playoff for the 2025 season. And we have an excellent matchup for game number one. It's a rematch of a game played about a month ago, Oklahoma, Alabama. And we're joined now by Colton Sulley. He is the Sooners beat writer for the Oklahoma. Colton, welcome back to the show. How you doing?
Doing well, Tony. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
So, Colton, let's talk about this rematch game going in here. It was an interesting result. Went to Tuscaloosa, beat Alabama, the only loss in the Kalen DeBoer era so far at home. What changes does Oklahoma make from that game to this one, but keep the same outcome?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think Oklahoma's coming into this game with a lot of confidence. Obviously, like you just mentioned, having beaten them on the road, but also beating them here about 13 months ago. So this is the third matchup in about 13 months. What do they need to change? Well, I think obviously that Alabama game was Oklahoma's worst offensive showing of the season. They did not play well, and they still came out with a victory. Forced 3 turnovers, didn't allow any or didn't give up any turnovers. So I think that's the key, and also just improving the offense.
What changes might you see when we see from them on offense? Are they going to try to run the ball a little more? Are they going to try to open up the field a little bit, maybe spread it out some, maybe try to see if they can beat Alabama deep?
Well, I think that you're going to see a little bit more better health in the running backs room. So maybe they try and run the ball a little bit more with Torrey Blaylock, Xavier Robinson, Javante Barnes. Obviously, will be available due to the red shirts not counting during the postseason, so he could be of help. But I do think that they're going to try and spread it out a little bit more. Maybe get Jaron Kanik, the tight ends, a little bit more involved. He had a really good start to the season. The first half of the season sort of struggled in the back half, so look to get him more involved. One change, and obviously it's out of their control, but they won't have their starting center for this game. Jake Michaela, he was in the hospital a couple of weeks ago with an infection, so that's something to watch. Have Fabechi Wiwu slide over from that guard spot and start at center. But we've been talking about this game for several weeks now, and I'm just ready for it to get here. I don't know how much that we've seen the offense for 12 games. I'm not sure how much better or worse it can get. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of change. I think that they're confident in what they're doing, and they've been able to win despite, some obvious struggles.
You talked about it that they met 13 months ago. Oklahoma won in Oklahoma last season. I think his final score was at 28-21. Colton?
Last season was like a blowout. It was like 24-6 or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. So the coaches have all had a chance to dissect everything about Alabama. Do you think they found anything that they think they can exploit in your talks with some of the coaches or some of the playoffs players? Have they seen anything that they think they can exploit on their end of the Alabama team?
Apologies, it was 24-3 last year. But yes, yeah, I do think that there are some things that they're extremely confident in, especially going up against Alabama. One, I think getting pressure on Ty Simpson. I think that's what sort of caused the turnovers last time out, especially the pick six to Eli Bowen. I think if this defensive line, you're getting our Mason Thomas back, who missed the last 3 weeks, they can get pressure on Ty Simpson, who we've heard he may or may not be at 100% health. That's something to watch tonight. So I think that's the key. And I think that this Oklahoma team and the coaches are confident in that game plan for sure, and their ability to rush the passer and create some havoc. To me, this game's going to come down to if Oklahoma can create some turnovers like last time out, and then on the other side of the ball, if they can take care of the football.
When you look at that Oklahoma defense, it's been stellar all season long. How much has a kid like Peyton Bowen meant to that defense? What has he brought to the table this season?
A lot. He's been a lot to this program just over the last couple of years. He came out as a true freshman and I believe was an All-American by some outlets. And then last season dealt with a lot of injuries, didn't have quite the season that he wanted, and he was pretty frustrated. But he's bounced back in a big way this season, not only on the field but off the field as a leader. This is a kid that he'd tell you he came to Oklahoma to play in a college football playoff game. Played in a lot of big games in high school down there in Denton Guyer. So he's been one of this team's best leaders, and he obviously came up huge in that Alabama game last time. I think he had the last minute deflection that sort of sealed it for the Sooners. So he's meant a lot, and he's certainly one to watch tonight in tonight's game. I think him and his brother will both have a big impact.
From the Alabama side of it, what might you think worries Oklahoma from that Alabama side on their offense? It looks like they're going to have Jam Miller back today. Is any worry about him in that Alabama backfield?
Oh, certainly. I think he'll definitely help them improve. I believe they rushed for like -3 yards against Georgia in the SEC title game. So having him back will certainly help. And we saw what Ty Simpson and this offense could do earlier in the season. I believe they rattled off 4 or 5 wins over ranked teams. That offense was explosive. Ty Simpson looked like a Heisman front runner at one point. So Oklahoma knows that this Alabama offense is very capable of scoring points. Obviously, you have a guy like Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, some of these explosive receivers. Cuevas, the tight end, I believe, is healthy and will be available for this game. So this is a very capable offense. They've obviously struggled in the back half, similar to Oklahoma's. So this is sort of a battle of two struggling offenses trying to figure it out, and two talented defenses.
Oklahoma's history in playoff games in college football, not the best, right? What would it mean to this coaching staff to get that monkey off the back and put all of that talk to rest and get it out of there?
Well, obviously different regimes, right? Lincoln Riley was 0-3. I think Bob Stoops was 0-1. But it would be massive. And I think just having this game be at home make it even extra special for not only the program, but the fan base. But, Brent Venables and this program, 2 6 and 7 seasons in 3 years, not the start that anybody here wanted. To now win 10 games with this schedule and host a playoff game, that's meant everything. And like you said, the record in playoff games for this program hasn't been the best, but a win tonight would go a long way.
What do you expect from the crowd in that stadium tonight to help this Oklahoma team get over that hump?
Yeah, it should be awesome. I know athletic director Joe Castiglione sort of put out a video yesterday trying to get fans to be in their seats 2 hours before kick. So I believe they're ramping up sort of the entertainment value inside the stadium. So it's going to be rocking Friday night college football playoff game. I would say it's the biggest sporting event in the state ever, but obviously the Oklahoma City Thunder won the NBA Finals this past year. So, but it's certainly the biggest football game ever played in the state.
It's going to be an interesting showdown because these are two blue blood programs of the sport, right? The histories behind Oklahoma and Alabama, they're one of the top 8 programs. If you could pick out 8 programs that represent the blue bloods of college football, these two are definitely included in that, right? So winning this, that bragging rights that would go along with this would probably mean a lot to some Sooner fans out there, I would imagine.
No doubt, and not even the historical aspect of it, but if you think about the matchups that Oklahoma and Alabama have had, I think Bob Stoops beat Alabama 3 times. Don't think he ever lost to him. Obviously, the Kyler Murray, Lincoln Riley team lost to him in the playoff. But the last couple of years, I've had people come up to me and ask me throughout the week, do you sense sort of a rivalry forming between these two schools? And I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case just because they won't see each other every year. But if Oklahoma happens to beat this Alabama team for the 3rd time in 13 months, I mean, you're going to see, a lot of angry Tide fans and a lot of, trash talk between the two fan bases. So I think from a historical standpoint, it's obviously super cool. I mean, I would probably say these are the 2 best programs of all time, honestly, not even in the top 8. So from that standpoint, it's cool, but also just the fact that they've seen each other a lot.
If you could lay out one thing for a couple of things that you want to see from John Metter in this game, what do you want to see from him to know that things are going to turn out pretty good for Oklahoma?
Well, this was the first week he's been practicing without tape on his hand. Obviously, had the surgery mid-season, so I think these last couple of weeks off were hugely beneficial for him. I would expect him to have his best game in a Sooner uniform, and I think if he does that, Oklahoma has a good chance to win this football game.
Sounds good. What are you worried about from that Alabama side? But if you see what 2 things, if you see from Alabama, are going to give you pause early in the game and go, we might be in trouble?
Well, I think if if Ty Simpson and that offense go down and score early, like especially on the first drive or second drive, this thing could probably go south quickly just because the Oklahoma offense and their struggles. This defense can't do it all themselves. I think they're going to have to create turnovers. There's going to have to be some luck involved, sort of like last time out. I mean, Alabama outgained this team by, I believe, 200 yards and still lost the game. So I think it's going to have to be sort of that type of game. I know Brent Venables calls them grimy. It's going to have to, if OU's going to win this game, it's going to have to be sort of ugly and not pretty. So for me, if that Alabama offense is just clicking on all cylinders and they put up the type of yardage that they did last time out and they don't turn over the ball, that would be cause for concern for Oklahoma.
Obviously, turnovers are going to be key. Is there any worry on your part from the Oklahoma side? They've been pretty good with the ball this season, right? They're going to take care of that football on their end.
Yeah. No, that's actually, if you were to point to two areas that the offense has been actually positive this season, it's the turnovers and also they're perfect in the red zone. I believe they're the only team in the country that has scored points every time they've got to the red zone. So I'm looking at those two things. But yeah, the turnovers, John Mateer last time out, he threw 3 picks against LSU. So obviously can't do that. I think the key is going to come down to him taking care of the football. But as an offense as a whole, that's not a huge concern.
Are there going to be any famous Oklahoma Sooner alum there in the crowd, do you think, for tonight's ball game?
100%. There always is. I know the Boz is going to be the guest picker on College Game Day, so it'll be cool to see him out there. But yeah, there's always some former greats and even recent history ones. I'm sure a lot of former NFL players. It's Friday. I don't know if anybody could make the trip before Sunday, but yeah, there's sure to be a lot of former Sooner greats tonight.
Now, this was maybe coming in on 15 years ago, but got a chance to travel with the Boz as part of a USO troop to Iraq, where they played a flag football game for the troops over there. And he was quite the entertaining character. So I'm pretty sure that you guys will have some stories from him that he'll be telling out there before the game.
Yeah, he's awesome. I've gotten the chance to talk to him a bunch, and I think he was a perfect pick for game day. Long overdue.
All right, Colton Sulley, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to join us. Get ready for that ball game. You've got a few hours before you have to head to the stadium. Enjoy the contest, and we'll be talking to you maybe in the coming weeks as Oklahoma possibly moves on in the college football playoff world.
Yep. Thank you so much, Tony. Appreciate it.
Have a great holiday, Colton. Colton Sulley,
he
is the Oklahoma Sooners beat writer for the Oklahoman paper. You can follow him there and get ready for this game tonight, 8 o'clock. You can find it everywhere out there. We will be right back on the Sports IQ. We'll dive into some of the FCS goings on after a break.
Are you tired of your website making your business look bad? Is your current web developer dropping the ball? Let's face it, if your website isn't making you money, it's broken. Let Neon Rain create a website that turns your visitors into customers. Neon Rain has worked with hundreds of businesses across North America, building custom websites and applications with modern designs that are easy to update and work well on mobile devices. They can do it for you too. What sets Neon Rain apart? They actually deliver on their promises. Call today for a free consultation. 303-957-3092. That's Neon Rain at 303-957-3092. Or visit them at neonrain.com.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-215-0341. 800-215-0341. 800-215-0341. That's 800-215-0341.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Hard to believe this is our last Friday together before Christmas. Wow. So, okay. There you go. All right. Producer Tony is sitting down with our next guest.
Well, thanks so much, Larry. And I know, everybody is really kind of focusing on the FBS because we all do. They've got a bunch of big playoff games happening this weekend. But, there is some really great football played just below the FBS and the FCS. And they have their semifinals coming up this weekend. And one of the matchups promises to be really, really special and maybe a little cold as well. Joining us now is Coulter Nuanez. He is the founder of Skyline Sports. Coulter, thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course, man. Big Sky Conference football, certainly my passion, especially when it comes to the Montana school. So happy to be here.
Let's talk about this matchup in the semifinals. We've got Montana taking on Montana State in the semifinals. And this is, kind of different because this is really a rivalry matchup. And yet the first time they've ever met in the playoffs because, you're all in the same conference, right?
And crossovers between Big Sky teams are not completely rare. Like Montana State played Idaho twice last year. Montana State played Weber State twice in 2022. The Grizz played Eastern Washington twice in 2021. But for whatever reason, these two teams have never squared off. Part of that is because Montana was so perennially good from the mid-'80s all the way through 2009, and Montana State wasn't really any good during that time. Now the Bobcats have been very good for the last 15 years. The Grizz had a little bit of a lull, but now they're back. And this is, to me, this is my 20th year covering the league, and this is the best they've both been simultaneously ever, and it's not even close. And for your listeners that maybe don't understand FCS football, there's a whole bunch of teams playing in the FCS that are playing what most people would consider the second tier of D1 football. There's about 5 teams that are playing true FBS football at the FCS level. They're just doing it because they're in these tiny little towns in the middle of nowhere in Montana and North Dakota and South Dakota. But make no mistake, in terms of support and funding and all that sort of stuff, Montana State, the Dakota schools, they are way more like a group of 5 team than they are like most of the rest of the FCS.
And it should be an interesting matchup. And by the way, folks, this is going to be, I believe, and Coulter, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't this the 125th meeting of these two schools?
Indeed, 125 meetings. It goes all the way back to 1897, one of the oldest rivalries in all of college football. So certainly a lot of history behind this one too.
Well, coming into this game, leading up to this, Montana's offense has been very prolific. They scored 50 against South Dakota State. They scored 52 against South Dakota. Meanwhile, Montana State got here edging out Yale 21-13 and putting up 44 against Stephen F. Austin. Give me a little background on this Montana offense and what makes them so special.
Well, it's a fun story when it comes to the quarterback. Kale Ayat is a second-generation Grizz. His dad, Brian, was an all-time great quarterback at Montana in the mid-'90s. They used to have an offensive coordinator from Hawaii named Tommy Lee, who was one of sort of on the forefront of the spread offense. He had worked for June Jones and Mouse Davis. So they had all these guys from Hawaii, including Brian, and they used to call them the Flying Hawaiians of Montana, which was very fun. And then Keali'i, Brian's son, I mean, he is a next level type of quarterback. I mean, he's absolutely Mountain West level already, if not even Power 5 level. But he came to Montana because he wanted to follow in his dad's footsteps. So that's a cool story. But the running back, Eli Gilman, I mean, he was the player of the year in Minnesota. That was a great recruitment job by Montana to get him out of Minneapolis. And then Michael Wortham, he's the guy that makes up like the trio that is what makes Montana so special. And Wortham was a junior college quarterback who went to Eastern Washington, and he was explosive at Eastern Washington, but they didn't win any games. And he wanted to win games his senior year, so he ends up transferring to Montana. So that trio has really made Montana special. For those that have followed college football, if you watched Montana the last couple of weeks, they run a bunch of crazy razzle-dazzle stuff. If you're thinking, wow, that looks like Boise State in the mid-2000s, it's because Brent Pease, the offensive coordinator at Montana, he was the OC at Boise back in those Chris Peterson days. So when they ran the Statue of Liberty to beat Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl in 2006, well, they ran that same Statue of Liberty play against South Dakota State to sort of put the nail in the coffin a couple Saturdays ago. So there's a lot of fun parallels and a lot of history that goes into it because a lot of these guys, like Pease himself, he's a Montana alum. A lot of these guys are at Montana because of their love for the school, even though they probably could be at a much higher level if they chose.
Now, they've already met once this season. The first game went to Montana State in a close ball game, 31-28, just a few weeks ago on November 22nd. Give us a little recap of that contest and how it relates to Saturday.
Well, the recent history of this rivalry, the home teams had just completely avalanched the visiting teams. It had been something like a 28-point average margin of victory the last 5 leading up to this year. So everybody was wondering, is that going to happen again? Can Montana State? I mean, Montana State was undefeated in league play and one of the top teams in the country each of their previous 2 trips when they came to Missoula, and they got ran out of the building both times. Well, this time they were able to come in and sort of stem the tide, and the momentum went back and forth. And it ended up Montana State was able to get a pick 6 in the third quarter after Montana had a pretty dominant 9-minute drive to take their first lead. And that pick 6 swung the momentum back in the Cats' favor. Then they blocked the field goal and they turned it into another touchdown drive. And then they were able to hold on from there. Probably the pivotal moment in the game, Montana State salted away the last 7 minutes of the clock, and the Grizz defense couldn't get off the field. And that was certainly completely atypical because Montana's head coach, Bobby Hauck, I know they're scoring a lot of points and they have an offensive identity this year, but Bobby Hauck is a defensive guy. There's no question about it. So for his defense to not get off the field, certainly probably a huge thorn in his side. But Montana State was able to then salt it away and win 31-28. So it was a huge effort by the Cats. And I would say probably the pivotal win in the history of Brett Vigen's 5 years at Montana State. That was the one box he hadn't checked, was winning in Missoula, and he was able to check it. So that gave the Cats a huge boost. But since then, they haven't looked as sharp as they did in Missoula, whereas the Grizz losing seems to have sort of awoken a sleeping bear, so to speak, right? I mean, they've been lights out the last 2 weeks. They've outscored their opponents 102-51. So just sort of interesting the trajectories these two teams have been on since that first matchup less than a month ago.
So Montana State is our home team, correct?
Correct.
For this game, we're going to be in Bozeman, Montana. Now, how is weather going to play a part of this? Because I've seen a few games over the years where I've watched some of these FCS games in that upper area, up in Montana, up in the Dakotas. It looks like it could be a little chilly, would you say?
Well, it's funny because us that live in Montana, we're sitting there thinking, oh, the high is 31. I mean, this is about 30 or 40 degrees warmer than we would normally expect for a December 20th game. Last week, I go back and forth covering the two teams wherever's at home. Last week, I was stationed in Missoula. It was 59 degrees at kickoff. I couldn't believe it. Usually, it's about 5 degrees in the middle of December. So I think the high in Bozeman, I've seen between 29 and 31. There could be some rain and a little bit of wind, but it sounds like the winter weather patterns that are moving all across the Northwestern United States, they're going to come before the game and then probably resurface after. So we actually might see a pretty balmy day, at least when it comes to Montana standards in the middle of December.
You talked about Montana. Their offense is a little more razzle-dazzle, a little more flash. Montana State, by comparison, from reading about them and looking at them, they're a little more ground and pound. Is that a good comparison?
It is. It's been really interesting because Montana State has had probably the best spread option attack in all of college football the last several years, just in terms of the prolific nature of their rushers. They had in my mind, the single greatest running quarterback in the history of the football championship subdivision in Tommy Mellott. He was the second all-time leading rusher in Montana State history, and they've had a lot of great ones over the years. He graduated. He ended up getting drafted by the Las Vegas Raiders. He unfortunately suffered a terrible hip injury during his transition to being a wide receiver. But anyways, Montana State brought in a more traditional style quarterback in Justin Lamson as a transfer from Stanford. And so Cat fans would say they're nowhere close to as good at running the ball as they have been because they're only averaging about 250 yards per game on the ground when they were rushing for about 340 these last couple of years. But that's all to say that they do have a great rushing attack. They have a two-headed monster. Julius Davis is the starter, and he was second team all-conference. He's a guy that transferred from Wisconsin. Adam Jones was the runner-up for National Freshman of the Year last year. He's also knocking on the door of 1,000 yards. So they still run the ball early and often. And just in terms of their offensive identity, it's an attack that's based on efficiency. Lamson's incredible at taking care of the ball. He completes about 75% of his passes. So they just kind of want to move the ball down the field incrementally and salt that clock away. But they also have proven to be pretty explosive on offense. They've scored a lot of points this year, even if it isn't quite as exciting maybe or as big play oriented as Montana.
Before I let you go, give me a couple of things we should look for in this game when we're watching the Montana State semifinal on Saturday.
Well, certainly, as in all football games, but the line play is going to be big. Montana State has a decided advantage on both the offensive and defensive lines. The Bobcats have the best defensive front in the country at this level. 4 seniors right across the board. They've been starting together for 4 years, so it's sort of a rare thing in college football when you have that much experience together. But they do. They have that, and all those guys are from Montana. That's a big factor in this game. Always is the guys that are from Montana playing, for their respective schools. So certainly the line play, I think, is where Montana State has an advantage. That said, Montana was able to go blow for blow in the first round of this matchup without Michael Wortham, who's their all-purpose guru, doing much of anything. He only had 1 catch. If they can get him more involved, that's a huge boost for the Grizz offense. Because if you can score 28 without him, you're thinking you can get into the 30s. So I think that even though both these teams are really good on defense, I think we're in for more of a track meet style game. I thought last time it was a race to 30, and Montana State got there and they won. I think this time it's more like a race to 38. I know that's a sort of an arbitrary number. I would say 40, but I don't know if anybody's going to get to the 40s. But I do think you can see 5 touchdowns on each side, and then whoever can get that extra field goal. I do think the spread is about right on. Yeah, Cats are anywhere between 2.5 and 4.5. I think that's about exactly right. Home field, you think gives you probably 2.5 points. So I think the book thinks it's a pick 'em, and I think that's exactly right. I think it is a pick 'em. So it'll be interesting to see because we've done this 125 times, and it's never been for a bid to the national championship game. So certainly big time bragging rights, both sides on the line here on Saturday.
Coulter Nuanez, thank you so much for joining us. Coulter is the founder of Skyline Sports. Check it out, especially if you're a fan of the Big Sky League and all the sports that they have to offer. And check him out, give him a like on social media, and get some great information. Coulter, thank you so much for joining us today on Sports IQ.
Appreciate you having me. Thanks so much.
We will be right back on Sports IQ after a quick timeout.
Do you know someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
877-927-3380. 877-927-3380. That's 877-927-3380.
You're locked in to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
More football to talk about. Producer Tony is with our next guest.
Well, thanks, Larry. And, obviously everybody's buzzing about the FBS playoffs, but let's not lose sight of the other division conducting their playoffs at the same time. The FCS division playoffs are also going on. Their semifinals are this weekend. Joining us right now is Illinois State beat writer Randy Reinhardt. He is with the Bloomington Pantagraph newspaper. And Randy, thank you so much for taking some time and talking to us about the Illinois State Redbirds.
Sure, happy to do it.
So let's dive in a little bit about this team. They've pulled a couple of, folks are calling them upsets here, but this is a pretty well-versed team at Illinois State.
Yes, I would say so. They've won 3 playoff road games, and I would say probably the only real upset would probably be the one up at North Dakota State. That was the number 1 ranked team, the favorite for the national championship. They were down 14 points with 6 minutes to go. They just got stopped on a 4th and 1 at the 10, and I certainly thought the game was over, but the Redbirds didn't, and they pulled off a miracle. So that was a very memorable game.
Yeah, and this Redbird team has been quite the road warriors. Last 21 road games, they're 8-3, and 2 of those losses have been to FBS schools, including Iowa.
Yes, that's true. For whatever reason, most teams usually do play better at home, but this team certainly hasn't. They've probably had their 2 worst games of the year were at home. They got beat by Youngstown State in a shootout at home, and then the last game of the regular season, they just got beat badly by Southern Illinois, and I think that was partly the reason the Redbirds had gotten their 8th win the week before, and they kind of, okay, we're in the playoffs, and they kind of lit up a little bit. But yeah, their 2 worst games of the year have been at home.
So going on the road yet again, this time you get a matchup against Villanova. What do you expect from that ball game?
I think this should really be a fascinating game. It seems to be 2 fairly similar teams, physical teams, teams that play good defense, teams that don't make a lot of mistakes. I would expect not necessarily a real low scoring game, but I certainly wouldn't expect a 40-38 or anything like that too. So I think it's going to be really fascinating. Probably hinge on a turnover here or there or a special teams play. But just from my preliminary research into this, it looks like two really similar teams.
Yeah, and coming in, I was reading the story about the Redbirds' last game against UC Davis. And the Redbirds, well, UL had some big plays out there in this ball game. A kickoff return for a touchdown, another a 90-something yard pass play, a 58-yard run. Is that normal for this squad? Do they generate a lot of big play offense?
They have this year. They have had a pretty decent amount of big plays. They like to test the secondary deep. They have their top receiver Daniel Sobkowitz is just seems to have a knack for coming down with the football, even when he's well covered on that 93-yard catch. It was thrown to about midfield. He went up with a defender right in his face. He brought down the ball. The defender fell, and he cruised on into the end zone.
Going in, then has this game. Tell us a little bit about this quarterback wide receiver combo. Is there any stories about them that you can share that kind of shed light on their relationship and how they work so well together?
Yeah, they've pretty much been together for 4 years. They've been in the program that long. This is Tommy Rittenhouse's second year as a starter, but he was the number 2 guy the 2 previous years. So these 2 guys have worked a lot together. They work a lot together in the preseason, and they're kind of different personalities. Rittenhouse is more outgoing. He's enjoys being a quarterback. He's a little, I wouldn't say brash, but he is outgoing, and he's willing to take on the responsibilities of quarterback. While Sobkowitz is very soft spoken. He loves to go fishing at a lake near town. He's not a boastful guy. He just likes to do the job and move on. So yeah, they've been a great combination.
And Illinois State was recently honored. You had 4 players named to the FCS Series All-American team. Tell me a little bit about them and what they bring to this program.
Yeah, I believe the first one would be the linebacker, Ty Niekamp. He's the Missouri Valley Conference Player of the Year, a Defensive Player of the Year, first team AP All-American. He's a local kid. He went to Normal Community High School right here in Bloomington Normal. He's the son of the defensive coordinator, Travis Niekamp. So there's a dynamic there that the 2 are both pretty intense. They get into it with each other. The coach will tell the player when he's messing up, and sometimes the player will tell the coach, who also happens to be his dad, what he thinks. But they obviously eventually work things out and work together pretty well. And Dexter Niekamp is not an All-American, but he's a younger player who's a rush defensive end, I guess you would call him, who plays quite a bit too. So there's 3 Niekamps that are very instrumental in the defense. Sobkowitz made the AP All-American team too as a second teamer. We just talked about him. Shadwell Nakuba Jr. is or Shadwell Nakuba the second, I should say, to be accurate. This is his first year with the team. He was transferred from Louisiana, and he came up here and became a starter immediately. He had 1 interception in each of his first 4 games. So, of course, at the time, he's saying, well, I think I'll just get 1 every game. and that didn't exactly work out. But he does have 5 on the season, and he's been an excellent cornerback. And the other one would be Jake. A big guy, as you might expect, very outgoing, and he's kind of the leader of that offensive line.
Well, that sounds that's a pretty good group of core to kind of build around. If you've got guys like that can make an All-American team for your division and carry on that tradition. What is it? Should our listeners know about FCS football if they've never been to a game? I've been to a couple. In October, I had the pleasure of going up and seeing an Ivy League game up at Columbia. The atmosphere is a little different. Tell us a little bit about that. What makes it special on an FCS campus to see a game?
Yeah, I think what makes it special, I've been covering this level of football for a long time. You don't have the 60,000, 80,000 seat stadiums, more in the probably 10 to 20,000 seat range, but the football is really high quality, especially in this conference. And I know the conference Villanova is in and has been in over the years is also very, very high quality. And you see pretty much every year teams at the upper level of FCS knocking off some of the FBS teams, and those really aren't upsets. If the Mid-American Conference has some good football too, but I would think it's fairly even as far as the Missouri Valley, even though that is a level up.
So coming into this ball game now this weekend, taking on Villanova in Philadelphia, what do you want to see? What 2 things, if you saw them early, will have you thinking, okay, Illinois State's on a pretty good footing. They've got a real shot in this ball game?
I would say probably the run game. Victor Dawson has been very effective here in the playoffs. He was the transfer, came in this year from Cincinnati. Didn't get a whole lot of playing time at Cincinnati, was behind a couple other backs, but he's been really, really good in the playoffs. And he's a strong kid, runs hard, breaks tackles. If he's doing that in the first quarter and he's picking up yards on the ground on a consistent basis, that's a very good sign for the Redbirds.
All right. Well, we will keep an eye out for that Saturday. The game is Saturday at Villanova, Illinois State, Villanova, FCS semifinals. What time is that contest, Randy?
I believe that is 6:30 here, so that's a 7:30 out east where you are, where the game will be played. So 7:30 on Saturday night. So it'll be probably a little chilly out there. I would certainly expect that to be on a Saturday night in December in Pennsylvania, but I'm sure both teams will be fine with that. They're used to this kind of weather.
Yeah, I think both teams will be, and being in Philadelphia, Philadelphia fans have been known to boo Santa Claus in the past. So they're going to be probably a pretty rowdy bunch going to be at this game watching Illinois State take on Villanova.
Yes, I would expect that as well.
Randy, thank you so much for taking some time and talking with us about the Illinois State Redbirds. Good luck this weekend. We'll see how they do and get ready for that FCS championship game, which actually doesn't take place till after the first of the year, once they get past the semifinals.
Right.
We
January
will
5th in Nashville. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Couple of weeks off between having the semifinals and the finals for the FCS folks. We will be right back. Thank you, Randy Reinhardt, for joining us here on the Sports IQ. Randy is the Illinois State beat writer for the Bloomington Pantagraph. Take a look at his work, follow the Redbirds, see how this journey plays out. We will be right back after we take a brief timeout and wrap up the show.
Everything is expensive right now. Gas, food, you name it. You're spending more, you are making the same or less money. So, what do? You rack up credit card debt, that's what you do. It's not your fault. It's the economy. And guess what? If you rack up too much credit card debt like some of us, you can't pay your bills. Then the credit card companies, as nice as they are, start hounding you for money. Then you start your downward spiral. A smart thing for you to do is to call the Zero Debt. They can help you consolidate all your credit card bills into one affordable payment. Millions of people have done it. It works to make you debt-free. Make this free call right now. It costs you nothing to learn more.
800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. That's 800-507-7293.
Well, sad news from the racing world that passed along. Former NASCAR driver Greg Biffle among the several people killed Thursday in a plane crash at Statesville Regional Airport in North Carolina. NASCAR confirming that 3 of Biffle's family members were also killed in this tragic accident. His wife, Christina, daughter, Emma, and son, Ryder, among the victims. Dennis Dutton, his son, Jack, and Craig Wadsworth also died in this crash. The plane, which went down during a landing at approximately 10:15 in the morning, was registered to a company that Biffle owns. And I want to talk to producer Tony now. Tony, you spent some time with him over the years in producing in work you've done for different outlets. And you were telling me before the show just what a fantastic guy Greg Biffle was.
Yeah, Greg was just, you want to say it, the salt of the earth. He would do anything for anyone. I got to cover him when I was working in the NASCAR garage for about a decade, and he was working with Roush Racing at the time. And we did a couple of things together. One, we had some fun at a downhill go-kart course where he was helping some folks out, in a little plug for Goodyear tires, and had some fun down there with him. And just, this was a man that gave of himself all the time. When he was in racing, when he was not in racing, he was in the community helping out. He would always give back. He always tried to help people when there were tragedies in North Carolina. Greg was there helping out. So he will and his family will be sorely missed, not only by his family, but by a lot of people in that North Carolina community. And prayers for his family, on this day of tragedy.
Yeah, very sad. And I know, again, you spoke right away so fondly of him, and we appreciate your perspective on the life, not just the career, but the life of Greg Biffle. Hall of Fame nominee, picked as one of the top 75 drivers in NASCAR history. 18 years as a driver at the top of his sport. Greg Biffle passes away here at the age of 55. I want to get back to last night's NFL game in Puka Nacua. We talked about his comments about referees beforehand, and then the big game last night, and more comments. You were saying, as someone who's been a lifelong referee, he's not helping our situation right now.
Right. We have a problem in this country. We don't have enough officials, especially at the youth and high school level. And the reason we don't is that they don't get a lot of respect from parents, from coaches, from other people. And then when you've got somebody like Puka Nacua, who's at the top of his field in the NFL, and he has a platform on social media, and he comes out 2 games in a row, first he says, oh, the refs want airtime. So, they'll make up calls so they get airtime. So that they can, and they'll tell their, in his text that, tell everybody I'm getting ready to make all that wasn't really pass interference, but I just wanted to be on TV. Like, that doesn't help. You are not helping the situation. You are making it tougher to recruit officials. You're making it tougher to retain officials. Look, without the officials, there are no youth sports. Without officials, there are no high school sports. So people like this that have that form, you need to stop. There's no call for it. There's no need for it. Those NFL officials are doing the best job at probably the toughest game to call on the planet.
Yeah. There is so much money at stake, not just in salaries and ticket sales and advertising and all that, but in the gambling world as well. You got to include that. So yeah, there's no question. Stop it. Find something else to talk about. Like when you go to a party, you want to bring up politics? No, I'm not doing that. How are your kids? Where are you from? There you go. Okay, college football weekend. Who you got? Who do you like this weekend?
Okay, well, 2 of the games we know are going to be walkovers, right? We can already pencil in Ole Miss, you can only pencil in Oregon. Like, nothing against JMU and Tulane. They're just not of that caliber. Those 2 teams win. I think that Texas A&M gets it done at home. I think the 12th man comes out in force for the Aggies. Marcel Reed is dangerous, both running and throwing. And Onyx Concepcion is lethal with the ball in his hands. I like A&M in that ball game. And then the other one, Oklahoma, Alabama, kind of a toss-up on this one, but I'm going to go with the home team. I'm going to go with Oklahoma, which we just talked with Colton Sulley. Twice in the last 13 months, they've beaten Alabama, once in Oklahoma, once in Tuscaloosa. I think they go for the three-peat and get it done.
No, that's a good point. I'm going to go the other way and go with a couple of surprises with the road teams, Alabama and Miami. I don't know why. I'm with you. I believe in A&M. I think it's a close game in both, but we'll have fun watching these. So, okay, we will take a quick timeout. We still have a fantastic moment of all on the way next, right here.
Fans of big sports radio and sports spectacular podcasts have a new home on the Chief Sports Network. Find your favorite programs and content all in one place by downloading the Chief Sports app in your mobile device. Created in South Carolina, the Chief Sports Network is the home of an expanding network of live and podcast format programming. It is also the home of one of the leading national college football podcasts, JC and Morgan, hosted by ESPN's Mike Morgan and 24/7 Sports' JC Sherbert. Download the Chief Sports app for free and find all of your favorite programming under one easy umbrella. Thanks to all of our markets for your loyal support of Big Sports Radio and our Sports Spectacular podcast, and we look forward to connecting with you anywhere in the world on the Chief Sports app.
All right, time now for a moment of awe, and it goes out to a team I'm betting that 99.9% of you have never heard of. On this date back in 1905, the Dawson City Nuggets, see, told you, hadn't heard of him, began a month-long journey from the Yukon to take on the Ottawa Silver Seven in a battle for the Stanley Cup. It took the Nuggets almost a month to reach their destination, traveling by foot, dog sled, bike, ship, train to get to Canada's capital, almost 9,000-mile track. And, of course, the team, as you imagine, was exhausted. They lost the best-of-three set 2-0, losing game one 9-2, the second 23-2. But that determination and grit to even get to the series deserves a moment of awe. Hopefully he had time to thaw out after that. All right, thanks to our guests. Thanks to you as well. Make this a fantastic weekend. And for all of us here, take care. We'll see you on Monday on the Sports IQ.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at SportsIQ LS. We'll see you next time.